Sheryl Sandberg and other tech leaders lean into Donald Trump. Yahoo gets hacked again. And Amazon delivers an autonomous bag of popcorn. All that and a whole lot more coming up on Tech News Today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1661, recorded Wednesday, December 14th, 2016.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage process into the 21st century with a fast, easy, and completely online process. Check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/TNT.
And by Grasshopper. Stay connected and run your business from your mobile phone with Grasshopper. To save $50 on your order, visit trygrasshopper.com/twit.
Welcome to Tech News Today. This is a show where we talk about everything that happened in technology that you need to know to look smart at your holiday party. I am Megan Maroney.
We're fueling your holiday party smartitude. I'm Jason Howell. Hello. How are you today?
I am awesome. Yes, I am excited. It's mid-December. It's maybe dropped below 70 degrees here in California.
So you like the cold weather?
I do. I love it. Yeah.
I'm the one that has a space heater right next to my desk, and I still feel freezing cold. Man, what is wrong with me? I'm sorry.
I think science would say it's because you're tall. There's a lot more room for the blood to get around. I am small and
stretchy.
short. And the blood flows everywhere, and always.
That's what science would say. All right, let's talk about some tech news. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump invited a number of Silicon Valley's top technology minds. I had faces in there earlier, but that was throwing Megan off because all she pictured was like these wandering faces in a room. Invited all these folks that you've heard of to an introductory meeting at Trump Tower that, according to sources, touched on a number of issues related to tech in Silicon Valley, including China, relationships with China, skilled immigration, jobs, and of course, security, that thread that's been running throughout the course of 2016. Those in attendance included Apple CEO Tim Cook, Alphabet's Larry Page, though his name tag had him down as Google, so that was an oversight, I think. Amazon's Jeff Bezos, Facebook's Sheryl Sandberg, and Microsoft's Satya Nadella, just to name a few. Also in attendance was Tesla's Elon Musk, who it was announced prior to the meeting will be acting as economic advisor to Trump, along with Uber CEO Travis Kalanick. They discussed topics dealing with fair trade issues, and the Trump administration basically saying anything we can do to help. Our door is open to you. Let's keep this communication line open.
Yeah, he said anything to help them do well. So, like financially speaking.
Business, right.
So, yeah, but I don't know that he means it. In his position on H-1B visas has been really inconsistent. So, I mean, that's one thing that could help them do well. Those things are connected. So again, he was saying those words, but a lot of his policies don't necessarily fit necessarily. Bezos was the first to arrive at the meeting. I thought there was something to be read into that.
He was prime delivered, I have a feeling.
He arrived by drone,
yes.
I think.
It was a free 2-day delivery, and he was there at the door right when it opened. So
I don't want to joke about this, but I do want to joke about this.
Come on, let's joke about it.
Because speaking of faces, I think BuzzFeed had the best reporting on this. They have had a piece where they just showed everybody's face in the room. I think we have a link to that, and it's just like each person's look during this meeting. So you can take a look at the 13 faces and it's just one after another. And, also Sheryl Sandberg leaning in there. You can see her leaning in. She's got a seat at the table. So, yeah, I mean, why wasn't Jack Dorsey invited? That's the big question I have.
Well, that's the big question. There's conflicting reasons behind this. Of course, Jack Dorsey, CEO of Twitter. Twitter has been, instrumental, to say the least, in being a way for President-elect Donald Trump to kind of reach people who follow him or people who don't want to follow him, but want to know what he has to say. I mean, it's basically been his microphone to the world outside of the traditional kind of press meeting, press release sort of approach. This is his way to, to build a following, to get his message out kind of in a more unfiltered way. So it's not like Donald Trump hasn't used Twitter to his advantage time after time. The transition team says that Twitter isn't big enough to be at the table. In other words, Twitter's market cap, $13.85 billion. That's compared to Tesla, which was the lowest market cap in attendance at $31.92 billion. So that's certainly a convenient reason. Politico had an article that said that this was actually punishment for Twitter denying an ad campaign from the Trump campaign that revolved around the hashtag Crooked Hillary during the election. Twitter initially allowed that and then removed it. Possibly it was because of that. It was more like retribution, and who knows? Who really knows the idea, the actual reality around that?
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it was definitely an interesting read. All the articles about what happened there and how he spoke to these tech leaders. So we will see. Yeah,
I think the one thing that kind of strikes me a little bit about this is just kind of the dissonance around the fact that that a lot of what Trump is, and what we kind of have read about this meeting is that it's about jobs. It's about, bringing jobs back into the U.S. and making sure that Americans have more jobs. That's a big part of Donald Trump's platform, except that so many of these people, if not all of them, are creating technologies like artificial intelligence. And we talk about this all the time, about the potential of eliminating jobs, not necessarily creating them. What is the net effect there? So, just the sheer amount of market value in the room was $3 trillion if you added it up amongst all the people that were actually there. So there's so much money being made as a result of these people, this concentrated group of people here. How does that translate into jobs? It's kind of an interesting, dissonance between the two.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, his labor secretary that he picked was the head of Carl's Jr., a man who has said that machines are better than people at jobs. They're more efficient. You don't have to pay. You don't have to pay them. You don't have to take. Just flat out exactly the opposite of what Trump was promising people. So. Politics aside, I think what he says on Twitter and what he says in these big giant speeches is very different than what he says when he gets in the room with people. I mean, on Twitter, he was like the failing New York Times. I hate the New York Times, criticizing the New York Times. And when he got in the room with the New York Times reporters, he called the New York Times a jewel of journalism, a jewel of the world. So, yeah, I mean, we just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what the longer term kind of relationship is. And that really seems to be what this is all about, at least in a public facing sort of way. An open door policy with technology in the Trump campaign.
We'll see. Ian Thompson from the Register says that Microsoft has quietly issued a patch fixing one of their Windows automatic updates patches that blocked users from accessing the internet or joining a local network. Now, something in the original update broke DHCP and prevented people from obtaining their LAN side IP addresses from their broadband routers. Windows 10 users who follow their updates carefully suspect the patch to blame came out on December 9th. But Microsoft is not saying. So these problems were reported across Europe and the United States. You can get the update to the update. You can get that online, but you have to be able to get online in order to get the update.
That's kind of a trick, isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, you can use another PC if you happen to have one. Yeah. You can download the update on an Android tablet, I guess, or an Android phone, and get it on there. So yeah, it was a sad day for those people who couldn't access the internet.
What are you going to do when you can't access the internet? It's like life is over. Life has no meaning anymore. I did find it funny reading into some of the comment threads around this article where people were super clueless. Like, it was kind of like, oh, that's what happened. And here's the fix. So I guess in this case, Microsoft really didn't do a whole lot of confirmation ahead of time. It was just like, yeah, we broke something, but we didn't tell you that we broke something. Here's the fix for it. Life moves on. That's a pretty big oversight. But there you go. That's all I got. Oh, Yahoo. The company disclosed an entirely separate hack from 2013 than the one reported earlier this year, just a few months ago, involving at least 500 million accounts. This incident involves more than 1 billion user accounts with names, email addresses, phone numbers, birthdays, hashed passwords, security questions and answers, all leaked to a third party, the result of a hacker who accessed Yahoo's code to forge cookies on its behalf to gain access to that stuff. Verizon, who is still in the process of acquiring Yahoo, says it is still evaluating the situation as this investigation and others, I might add, unfold. In September, we had the state-sponsored hack of 500 million accounts. In October, we had the NSA FBI rootkit discovery, and now we have this. I mean, that deal, the Verizon deal, was for $4.83 billion. I mean, you have to imagine, this is like one thing after another. You have to imagine at some point that number goes down, that there's some sort of negotiation there. I had to expect that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And I also wonder, do you think that they released this on this day when everyone was sort of paying attention to the tech leaders going?
Oh, like intentionally?
Yeah.
Like,
well, Yahoo not invited to the table.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they were like, because it happened in 2013. So they're like, let's just release it today when nobody's around. Everyone's watching, showing these pictures of everybody sitting next to Donald Trump at a table. So, yeah, I think.
Look over there. Look over there.
Also, I think we should probably just give out our passwords at this point because they're out there. So you go first.
Yeah, or figure out some other way to do it because apparently passwords just don't work.
Well, Yahoo has, they have this thing called Yahoo account key to eliminate passwords. It's basically two-factor.
Yeah.
And I tried to sign up for it, and I couldn't. It was just, too complicated for me. So,
well, security is complicated, I suppose.
Well, it shouldn't be that complicated.
Yeah, you should still be able to get signed up for it when you want.
I have two-factor on everything. It's not that hard.
Right.
But, yeah.
Hashed passwords and security Q&As were using MD5, which basically right now is pretty easily decipherable. It's considered to be insecure and easy to reference. So, keep that in mind. That's just like a general reminder around encryption, is that encryption works now. There is a time when computers are advanced enough and smart enough to crack that encryption. So it's not a forever sort of thing. This is just one example of that.
Yeah, but they did cancel everyone's security questions and stuff. Those are cleared out. So they reset all that.
And you'll be notified if, as it probably was, your account was one of the ones accessed.
You'll be notified in your Yahoo account if you still have access to your Yahoo
or
account.
if you even log in ever.
Amazon announced today that on December 7th, Prime Air completed its first drone delivery, a Fire TV device, and a bag of popcorn. The drone was completely autonomous and guided by GPS. However, the UK requires that a technician be standing by in the event of a failure. There hasn't been a failure yet. The delivery was part of a beta test in Cambridgeshire in England. The test currently has only 2 customers, but Amazon says they plan to expand to more customers who live nearby the fulfillment center. The company promises that delivery in under 30 minutes in the electrical drone these drones will fly under 400 feet, and they're capable of carrying packages up to 5 pounds.
Yeah, popcorn and a fire stick. And then you watch the video and you realize how highly produced it is. So don't be fooled into thinking this was just some random dude that was like, oh, I'm going to order it. And hey, wow, it was delivered by drone. That's really neato. I mean, this guy had a camera crew in his house. It was all scripted and produced and everything. But still, nonetheless, it's the launch of this kind of next phase of Amazon delivery. They're transforming how you shop in grocery stores, coming soon to a grocery store near you, and potentially, doing this with delivery trucks, opting for flight instead.
Mm-hmm. I believe that Richard B., this customer, identified only as Richard B., I believe he ate that popcorn.
Oh, I'm sure he ate that popcorn. Maybe he plugged that Fire Stick into an HDMI port at some point. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Maybe. I like how it's reeled out on a track, though. For whatever reason, I really appreciated this. They put the humans actually pack the stuff and put it on the drone, put the drone on this platform, and then the platform chugs along this train track out into the middle of the field on its own launching pad. And then from then on, it's actually fully autonomous and it does its thing on its own.
Well, it's fully autonomous once it is set on that track.
So the whole thing,
from that track on. Kicks, yeah. So it's 13 minutes from when he ordered it until
that's pretty impressive.
It got there. So yeah, unless you live near Cambridgeshire, England, this isn't going to be coming to you anytime soon. But it could if you do live nearby there.
You know what might be coming and probably will be coming to you soon? If you're a Twitter user, a new update that's rolling to Twitter users that brings the capability for live video broadcasting into the app itself. and it's powered by Periscope, of course, Twitter's live streaming service that up until now has operated on its own in its own app. Twitter users don't need a Periscope account to take part, nor do they have to have installed the Periscope app in order to stream. Now it is basically using the Periscope technology within the Twitter app. So if you're a Twitter user, you can just tap the live button and stream courtesy of the Periscope technology. And so then are we in the countdown phase for when Periscope goes away? Personally, I don't think so, but maybe at some point we will be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they didn't start with this. I guess because they didn't want people to have a Twitter account in order to use Periscope.
Right.
But there's so many ways for people to live stream and not that many people who really do live stream. Although I am seeing more people live stream. My Aunt Priscilla on Facebook has been live streaming more and more these days. So, and she's sort of the bellwether for, what
if Aunt Priscilla is live
do.
streaming, that's when you know something is mainstream, is when Aunt Priscilla is doing it.
Uber was operating self-driving taxis in San Francisco without a permit. We'll find out why they got shut down after the break. But first, let's take a minute to thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans, the sponsor of this episode. Getting a mortgage is frustrating and it's time-consuming. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage approval process into the 21st century. It's fast, powerful, and completely online. Rocket Mortgage has taken all the complicated, time-consuming parts of applying for a mortgage out of the equation. If you've ever gotten a mortgage or refinanced your mortgage, you know there's a lot of complicated parts and a lot of annoying things and paperwork and looking through stacks of old files and trying to find everything and then running around town to get a notary. You don't need to do that anymore. With Rocket Mortgage, you can easily share your bank statements and your pay stubs at the touch of a button that helps you get approved in minutes for a custom mortgage solution that's been tailored to your unique financial situation. Even better, with Rocket Mortgage, you can do all of this on your phone or your tablet. It is a super quick online process that you can manage from the convenience of your couch. So if you're looking to refinance your mortgage or buy a home, check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/TNT. That's quickenloans.com/TNT. Don't forget to add the TNT so they know we sent you there. They are an equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org, number 3030, and we thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for their support. Well, starting today, you could hail a self-driving Uber on the streets of San Francisco. Now we're not so sure. Joining us to talk about his experience in the robot Uber a few weeks ago and what's going on now is Andrew Hawkins from The Verge. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I want to know how your ride in this Uber was, because I know you got a special secret press invitation to ride in it a few weeks ago or last week. But first, let's start with what's going on right now as we speak. We knew that Uber did not have a permit to have self-driving cars on the road, but they did it anyway. And now maybe California is trying to shut them down. Can you talk a little bit about what you know so far?
Sure. So the service launched today for the first time in San Francisco, Uber's home turf, where they were first conceived 7 years ago. And pretty soon after, a video surfaced of one of their vehicles running a red light. A number of outlets picked it up and highlighted this aspect. Uber said that it was not the self-driving car's computer that was responsible for running the red light, but it was the human safety driver that was in the car at the time. Uber says that all of its self-driving cars will feature human safety drivers in the front seat for the time being. And then soon after that, the DMV released a letter that was sent to Uber saying that they had not obtained a permit to operate self-driving cars in San Francisco. A number of other companies have done this. Google and Ford and a number of car companies have obtained these permits. Uber has this reputation for flouting the laws, sort of skirting the regulations, and they have not obtained this permit. I think it costs like $140, which Uber's worth $68 billion. They can obviously afford that.
But have you ever gone to the DMV to get like a permit? Like seriously, it's not the most fun thing in the world.
That's a really good point. I didn't think about that. But no, so the DMV says, cease operations or we will start, legal action against you. Uber has yet to respond at this point. We don't really know whether or not these vehicles are still available to be hailed through the Uber app by normal people, or if they're being pulled off the road. So it's a fast-moving story right now. Things seem to be sort of in flux for them, and like I said, it's terrible PR for the company. In what was supposed to be a obvious triumph, they're bringing their self-driving cars to their home city, and it's not turning out so great for them.
So it was the safety technician who ran this red light, allegedly ran this red light. And isn't this really one of the big issues with the transition to self-driving cars? I mean, even Google, when they started to have people in the cars that were sometimes supposed to be paying attention, but not always paying attention, that's a real problem. That, like, if we're not actually tasked with driving a car full time, that it's quite dangerous to just be sort of halfway time, in a half autonomous car.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. And when Uber first launched the self-driving program in Pittsburgh a few months ago, they let me get behind the wheel and be driven. I guess I can't say drive it, but be driven by the car from the perspective of the driver's seat for a good 30 minutes or so. It was really interesting. I sat there, my hands were in my laps, my hands were in my lap, my feet were not touching the pedals, and the car was basically driving itself. And it was really sort of fascinating how quickly I was sort of lulled into this sense of security. I think when confronted with sort of automation and robotics and things like this and artificial intelligence, most people will just sort of sit back and let the machine do the work for them. I think we see that sometimes with cruise control. We definitely saw that earlier this year with Tesla and its autopilot system, which is not a self-driving system, it's a driver assist system. But a guy unfortunately was watching TV or Netflix or something, and the car crashed into a truck and he was killed. So you can see sort of how this could lead to a lot of problems going forward. That said, Uber has always said, and a number of other companies that do this, as well as Google, this is a long process. They don't anticipate releasing vehicles out onto the road with nobody in them yet. But it does raise a lot of questions about how companies like Uber and Google, which are tech companies, and then the car companies, GM, Ford, and others, BMW, that are working on self-driving technologies, how they're going to integrate that into their vehicles, how they'll present that to the public, how the public will respond, what this sort of like overlap period between when we have human drivers on the road, where we have robot cars on the road, how they will interact with each other, whether or not it will be less safe, which will sort of go against the whole ethos behind self-driving cars, which is that it's supposed to make traffic fatalities and accidents extinct, a thing of the past.
Well, in your experience when you were riding in one of these cars, and maybe just in general in these like assisted vehicles where you're also as a driver supposed to be in tune and connected and ready to take over at any moment, what is the transition period like? Like, I mean, I'm sure there's a way for you as a driver to say, I'm taking control now, the way you would, coming out of cruise control, where you tap the brake and that, puts you in control again. But when it's decided for you, is that obvious? Is it jarring? Is it something that people that I imagine some of these safety drivers, the thing that they have to get used to in that transition?
So what happens is it can happen two ways. It can happen like with cruise control, where you tap the brake or you tap the gas pedal, and the car will kick itself out of autonomy mode, and you will be in control of the car. So you could just do that yourself through a normal means, as you would with cruise control. If the car decides that it can't handle whatever the situation is ahead of it, and it wants the human to take control, there's a chime and a light on the dash display that tells you that it's shifting out of autonomy mode. It happens pretty rapidly. I wouldn't say that it does it and then you have 10, 15 seconds to react. You pretty much have to react right away, which is why Uber has these safety drivers in the car, which is why they're saying this is not a level 4, level 5 autonomy system. This is a system that's meant to have humans monitoring it at all times, and the humans need to stay vigilant and stay aware of their surroundings and aware of how the car is driving. Otherwise, you're going to have, situations where things could get kind of dangerous. So, it's not something where you can turn around and start having a conversation with the person in the back seat, or start flipping through your phone, or doing any number of other things besides paying attention. It is definitely a system designed to keep you paying attention to the road, despite having the car drive itself. That said, while the car is driving itself, it does drive very safely. I can say that. I likened it to an overly cautious grandmother who will stop, a good car's length between you and the car ahead of you when you're at a stop sign, and waits maybe a second longer than a human would wait to accelerate, to make a turn, to go through an intersection. There is something that is sort of robotic about the way the car does carry itself, and they program him to only go a certain speed, so that if there's a 55 mile per hour, 45 mile per hour speed limit, the car will not exceed that. It cannot exceed that because its programming won't allow it.
So they've been operating in Pittsburgh for a while, and they have a permit in Pittsburgh. But an Uber spokesperson told Wired that they didn't get a permit because they didn't need one. They felt they didn't need one. And you said this is bad PR for them, but also there's a lot of talk about this was just intentionally a PR stunt on their part. Do you feel like this is still bad PR, or is it for them just any PR is good PR?
I think that's a good question. I think it definitely brings focus and attention to what Uber is doing in California. And like I said previously, they do have this kind of reputation of being sharp-elbowed and not very, not caring at all about regulations or the rules. We saw it when they first launched 7 years ago. I remember I live here in New York. There was a back and forth between the TLC, the Taxi and Limousine Commission, that regulates taxis, and Uber for a long time. And eventually they came to some agreement that that Uber would have to maintain these black car bases in order to operate in New York, which Uber didn't want to do, but eventually it capitulated. So we've seen instances where Uber does capitulate to the regulators, other instances where they basically, by sheer force of their own will, bend the regulators to their will. And they did that in New York as well, where they got into a fight with the mayor of New York City when the city tried to regulate them and limit the number of cars that were able to be on the road. And eventually Uber sort of marshaled all its political and lobbying power and got the city to scrap the plan. So on one hand, Uber has shown itself to be bendable to certain rules. On the other hand, it's completely ignored other rules and forced regulators to sort of conform to what it wants to do and write new rules for it. So it is possible that Uber could get the DMV to stand down based on pressure and lobbying. Whether it goes that route or not, especially since safety seems to be the number one concern here, and we've got cars running red lights, that I would be really surprised if that happens. I mean, it seems like it's a very small thing to have to do to obtain one of these permits. Uber could do that. I don't know if it will, but it might need to in order to save face.
Well, I am 100% behind self-driving cars. Like I want them as fast as possible. But Uber is just really like I wish there were a different company really pushing to get them out there, because I do think that they need to follow the regulations. But I mean, if you think about it, okay, the car ran a red light, a human was behind the wheel, no one was hurt. Like in that hour, think about how many people were killed in other cars where they were behind the wheel. Like it's definitely safer in the long run. So but do you think it's possible for like any company to push the envelope and regulations for self-driving cars in a different way? Do you think this is the only way that we can really get autonomous cars on the road?
Fast.
So we before Uber launched this service today, we had Google coming out with its announcement that it was spinning off its self-driving car company into a separate company called Waymo, which I think is a terrible name, but they didn't ask me for my opinion. But that said, it seems like they're shifting focus from manufacturing their own cars to building the software that could then be plugged into a third-party car. Google has a permit with the California DMV, as do dozens of other companies. But the thing that Uber has that these companies don't is this network of drivers and riders affiliated with its ride-sharing service. So you've got 1.4 million drivers across the world, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people who use the service. That is an extremely valuable thing when it comes to self-driving cars, because I think you ask most experts in this field, what is going to be the first sort of real world application for self-driving cars? They'll tell you ride sharing or ride hailing, some sort of hybrid of a taxi service. Uber has that network. They have that platform. They have they've established that business, and they've established themselves as the leader in this field. So it's hard to see how another company could come along and use self-driving cars on a widespread basis like Uber can. That said, you do have pretty much every auto manufacturer on the planet working on self-driving technology under the assumption that they'll eventually be able to sell this to people. So whether or not it's a personal vehicle that you own that is self-driving, or it's a shared vehicle through a car sharing service or a ride sharing service that's self-driving, I think that the future will really tell sort of what's the predominant method in which self-driving cars are applied and used on the road. But it seems most likely that it's going to be a fleet service through a ride-sharing network in probably a limited area, geo-fenced, or sort of it could be a downtown dense area in a city, or it could be a college campus or a corporate campus, for instance. I think we've seen a number of college campuses are beginning to look at self-driving shuttles. There's no question that Uber definitely has an advantage here with its network, but there are a number of other applications and a number of other possibilities in which self-driving cars could be out on the road that doesn't involve Uber.
Well, Andrew Hawkins, thank you so much for joining us. Andrew is a transportation reporter at The Verge. He covers ride sharing, ride hailing, Hyperloop, hoverboards, policy, all the things with wheels on it. Excellent video about his experience last week in what might be the last self-driving San Francisco Uber for now.
For today.
Thanks so much for joining us, Andrew.
Thank you for having me.
Take care.
Thank you, Andrew. Have a great night. Stan Cook weighs in on our discussion of the new Bluetooth 5 standard. He says, "It has been my experience that the best distance for Bluetooth is more dependent on the receiver than the transmitter. I have one set of Bluetooth headphones that I can listen to through most of my house. I have another set of Bluetooth headphones listening to the same phone that I can barely leave the room before I start losing the sound." That's kind of at the core of any of my complaints around Bluetooth, and probably part of the reason why I rarely end up relying on Bluetooth for something like headphones or whatever, is because in the times that I've used it, it's either great or not great, and I hate uncertainty around that. When I know I can just plug something in manually, it just makes me feel better.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, as a runner, like I think the distance between the armband and the headphone is all that I care about, and without those wires connecting. Right. So yeah, for me, Bluetooth, it just works. Yep.
We'll see. I actually did get a Samsung Bluetooth headphone thing recently, and I haven't used it yet, but I got it for the gym to test it out. So I will test it out and let you guys know if it fails on me or if it wins. We'll see. Next, in Vegas, only the Amazon Echo can hear you scream. But first, let's take a minute to thank Grasshopper, the sponsor of this episode. Grasshopper is a virtual phone system designed for entrepreneurs. Grasshopper works just like a traditional phone system, of course, but requires no hardware purchase or software installation because you already have the hardware. It's the smartphone that you already have. With their iOS and Android app, callers can reach you wherever you are on your mobile phone. Grasshopper allows you to keep your existing number so you can maintain your brand. That's important. When you make a call, your client will see your Grasshopper caller ID instead of your personal phone number, even though you're making that call on your smartphone. Simply select a toll-free or local number, record a custom greeting for your business line, and add multiple extensions for your business as well. Toll-free numbers are awesome for marketing. They make your business sound even more professional. And then, of course, setting up department and employee extensions with custom call forwarding is going to go even further in that. That can be forwarded to any phone in the world. Get voicemails emailed to you as audio attachments. You can send and receive SMS, text messages from the business number, and it's just all things included. It's really awesome. Join the over 250,000 Grasshopper customers today. Plans start at just $12 per month, and you have a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's plenty of time to check it out and see for yourself. Turn your smartphone into a business line with Grasshopper. To save $50 on your order, go to trygrasshopper.com/twit. That's trygrasshopper.com/twit. And we thank Grasshopper for their support of Tech News Today.
TNT's fan of the day is Ryan Bright on Twitter, who says, I listen while doing all my morning farm chores.
Farm chores and technology.
And
they do coexist. What is that watch?
I'm not sure what that watch is, but I love that Ryan's cows either wear hats or sunglasses. And,
cows from the future.
I might have to ask him why, if you look at his hero image on his Twitter profile, some of them have neither hats nor sunglasses, and I'm curious about that, Ryan. So
they haven't graduated.
Okay.
To cool cows, to the cool cow farm, and they aren't wearing spectacles.
No.
So I'm a little disappointed that they aren't that much in the future, but they're still cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So show us how you do your farm chores while watching or listening to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup, post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, or just tell your cows and maybe they'll whisper it to us at some point. Make sure to tell your cows to use the hashtag #HowIWatchTNT, and then we will find it.
That's right. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas and on Amazon servers somewhere in the world for who knows how long. The Wynn Las Vegas Hotel will throw Amazon Echoes into 4,748 of its hotel rooms for guests to use as a virtual information desk. I think that's brilliant. As well as a smart room hub. What could possibly go wrong? Basically, you could use this, the Amazon Echo that's in the room to open curtains, set the thermostat, turn on the TV, all sorts of like automation that you would do in a smart home, except in the hotel room. And then also, I think as an information desk, like that's amazing. I have to imagine that would significantly cut down on calls to their line, their hotel line.
Like, where's the nearest restaurant, that sort of thing.
Yeah, right. Because that happens all the time. You don't know the place. You're staying at a hotel. That's who you call.
Mm-hmm. This is a great idea. It looks like it's mostly used as a remote for now. I've never stayed in a Wynn, but I've known people who've stayed in there, and they're big on that, like remote control, like the shades in the bathroom, or just all that fancy stuff that reminds you you're in Vegas and everything's fancy there. But yeah, I get your point about what could possibly go wrong, because I'm not sure I want a speaker microphone thing that can record all of my conversations in Vegas.
Yeah, like I wonder how many of the people who are staying, because when you think about Vegas, so many people come through Vegas and stay in these hotels on a regular, it's a rotating door, quite literally, as far as the amount of people and the scale, the wide range of people from different backgrounds. Maybe they aren't technology versed. Maybe they don't even know what an Amazon Echo is. Do they know that there's a mute on it? Like, some people are really freaked out about the security and privacy aspects of an Amazon Echo, and they're happy the mute button is there because they push that and then they feel confident that audio isn't somehow being transmitted to Amazon. A lot of these people might not know about that, and I wonder how they'd feel if they did. Right. You know what I mean?
But they're not connected to your account yet. There's
they're not connected. Yeah, that's
to your
true.
Account. So it's not. But really, just being recorded is something a lot of people probably don't want. Although, in their rooms, once you step foot on the floor of the casino, like, everything's recorded.
That's true.
So, but in your rooms,
they figured out how to record your room too now. And how intuitive is it? Also, for people who have never done voice commands or worked with an Amazon Echo, don't even know what it is, and then that's the way that you turn your thermostat to 72. I'm sure it's probably not locked into just the Amazon Echo, but I do wonder how intuitive it would be for someone just walking into it and without having any sort of background. We'll find out. You should stay at the Wynn and email us, tnt@twit.tv, and let us know how it goes. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You'll be part of the show by emailing us, tnt@twit.tv. Leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW, and find us on Twitter. We are at Tech News Today TV.
And we need your help. We're working on the best of episodes for all the shows on Twit this year. So visit twit.tv/best of to submit your favorite moments of 2016. Just give us any information you have. You don't have to have a time code. If you just remember just a couple words or maybe a month or anything, just submit it. We've been taking a look at those and putting together our best of episodes to play while we're all on holiday. And we want you to subscribe so you don't miss any of those shows. Go to twit.tv/TNT. And if you want to tweet tweet at me. I'm at Megan Maroney.
And I'm at Jason Howell. Of course, thanks to our technical director, Kara Cole. Thanks to Jammer B for helping out in the studio today and scrolling the words on the screen for us. Appreciate that. Thanks to Kevin for editing and making everybody on the show look good. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.